I think that the Little Nightmares games are amongst my favorite games of all time. Developed by Tazia Studio and published by Bandai Namco Entertainment, the Little Nightmares series follows various children as they try to survive in this horrible, grotesque world where all the adults want to eat them. The children are almost helpless in their small size compared to the gigantic and grotesque adults. These games really make you empathize with these children, as it's most likely they've never had a moment of happiness in their lives, always kept contained, waiting to be killed and eventually eaten. It's not all grim, though. There is some light in the darkness. For example, there are these very cute scenes of characters holding hands or hugging, and it gives the player a reason to want to survive in this grim, horrible world. An argument could be made that there isn't much character development in this series, but honestly, I couldn't disagree more. For example, the main character of the series, Six, changes a lot, and a lot about her is revealed as the series progresses. Like, there are things revealed about her in the second game that aren't even considered in the first. Is that not character development? Also, it's not like these children have too many moments to calm down, because the world is always putting them in some kind of danger. Even a lot of the adults get a lot of development. At least one of them does. Alright, now I'm gonna take a deeper dive into these games, but honestly, before I continue, I know I warned you at the start, but please, these games are incredible, and if you haven't played them yet, they're well worth your time. So if you haven't played them, stop watching, go play them, and come back, because I really do not want to spoil these games for you. Oh, and just a quick disclaimer, I will not be covering Very Little Nightmares, the mobile spin-off in this video, as I have not played it. Not yet, anyway. So, just letting you know, that game isn't going to be covered in this video. With that out of the way, let's analyze these brutal, horrific, yet somewhat cute games. The original Little Nightmares. This game was released in 2017 and follows a 9-year-old girl named Six who wears only a yellow raincoat, and she's locked in a place called the Maw, which is part prison, part restaurant. Small children are taken to the Maw to be cooked up when they die and then fed to these horrible, grotesque, and disturbing guests. Six, one of the captured children, realizes what's going to happen to her eventually and decides to escape the Maw, and that's where the gameplay comes in. Six's movement isn't anything too complex. She can walk, run, jump, grab onto things, and slide and crouch. She can even slide if you press the crouch button while running, which can save your life on numerous occasions. She even has a lighter which you can use when it's really dark, as you see right now. You can find these gnomes around the mall, and you can hug them, which unlocks concept art. Later on in the game's DLC, Secrets of the Maw, you find out that the gnomes are children, just like Six, who have been turned into gnomes, which, I'm not going to lie, makes later events kind of horrifying. I mean, they already were, but the truth makes them even worse. Not too far into the game, Six comes across her first adult, Roger, also known as the janitor. He is the one who looks after the children and eventually prepares them to be eaten. And my god, such a well-designed creature. So this guy, he's blind, but he compensates for it by having really great hearing and long arms, which he can grab you from a distance. Any encounter with this guy is some of the scariest in recent memory. There are so many tense moments of him feeling around for you, and it's just, ugh. This game utilizes excellent sound design and great music to create some of the most tense gameplay I've ever had the joy of playing through. Just watch this clip and you'll know what I mean. You know what? Now that I think about it, all of the monsters in this game are great. The janitor, the twin chefs, the guests, and the lady. Some are definitely scarier and more threatening than others, but all are at least creepy in some way. The lady, the head of them all, represents a reoccurring theme in the game: hunger and greed. She spends the whole game behind a mask, and the one time we see her without it is in the game's DLC. Her face looks heavily injured and scarred. She is probably running them all out of an obsessive hatred towards children and their pretty faces. And considering the people of this world love to eat children, she's probably getting a lot of power off of it without people knowing the truth about her. The guests are also very greedy and gluttonous, coming to the mall every year, it seems, desperate for food even though they're already fat and full of food. They're seen disgustingly stuffing their face with food, and when you have to pass through them to get to the ladies' quarters, they try to grab you, even though there's already plenty of food in front of them. And later, they try to kill you and eat you as fast as possible, uncaring of all the work that was put into setting up tables and construction, damaging property, and even eventually hurting each other and killing each other even just because they were so desperate to eat you when they had other opportunities for food. Just because they think something that's still alive is going to be tastier. And so because of this, it's easy to empathize with protagonist 6. However, in many ways, she's not any better herself. 6 has chronic hunger, and throughout the game she'll have these moments where she's really hungry, and the only way to get rid of it is to eat something. It starts off okay, like the first thing she eats is some bread another kid throws towards her. However, her eating habits become worse and worse as the game goes on. After the bread, she eats raw meat, a live rat, and later, a gnome. All the information we have of the gnomes makes this scene horrifying. 1, they're the only thing in the game that don't hurt you. 2, it was offering you a sausage. And 3, it's a human. 6 is a cannibal. Whenever 6 is eating in the game, a shadowy version of herself can be seen watching, possibly representing her evil habits. The game ends with a tense boss fight against the lady, in which 6 must use a mirror as a weapon against her. Afterwards, the lady is seen lying on the floor, helpless, and 6's chronic hunger starts to hit again, and so she eats the lady. Consuming her flesh gives 6 the lady's power, and she goes and does something horrible with it. Honestly, it's a bittersweet ending because while you escape the mall, which is the point of the game, 6 leaves it selfish, as a cannibal, as a mass murderer. It's like, was it really worth it? Deep down, you're no worse than the adults you escaped from. The game shows you the gnomes that you hugged throughout your journey as a nice little screw you for eating the gnome. And so, that's the first game of the Little Nightmares series. Very disturbing, very grotesque, and honestly, it's only gonna get worse. Now it's time to talk about Little Nightmares 2, one of, if not my favorite horror game of all time. The game starts you with this mystery of what's behind this mysterious door. Oh, and don't worry, we find out later. And I don't think you're gonna like what's behind it, trust me. Later, our main character this time round, Myrna, wakes up in the woods beside a TV, and gameplay begins. This game controls a lot similarly to the previous game, but honestly, I think I like how the controls feel in this game more. They feel a bit tighter and more refined. Later, the player finds 6 from the previous game, lacking her raincoat. Myrno is shown to be a very different character from 6, openly wanting her to join him on this adventure so he's not alone. 6 goes for it at first, thinking about it, but then she reverts back to her old selfish self. However, she realizes that she's gonna need someone else to survive in this horrible world, and decides to team up with Myrno. 6 becomes a cool gameplay mechanic. There will be lots of things you can't do by yourself, so you can call to 6 and she'll help you push something or grab something for you. And there's a cute little detail where if you hold the hold button and walk up to 6, the two of you hold hands. I think it's very adorable. And again, as I said, the cute moments in these games are so important because it's some of the only moments of peace you get. 6 gets in trouble a lot in this game, and after their relationship grows and develops, Myrno risks his life to save 6 on numerous occasions, and it doesn't feel out of nowhere, because 6 is just about the only friend Myrno has ever had. But how scary is the game? Honestly, the first game is creepy, but this game is... For instance, take this scene in the classroom. Have fun trying to get that out of your head when you have to go to bed tonight. Issue I have with the first game that this game fixes is in the first game when you find a key that you need for a door, like you have to physically you have to hold the hold button and to carry it with you everywhere, and it's very tiring on your finger after a while. However, in this game, when Myrno finds a key, he just puts it in his pocket, so you don't have to keep holding, pressing the hold button to take keys with you, and it makes the gameplay way smoother and more enjoyable. Because when I'm in situations like this where I have to quickly grab a key and go, it's better to just quickly grab the key and go than to remember, oh yeah, I have to hold the hold button while also holding the run button. Once again, the music, visuals, and sound design are all great. They create these perfect, tense, and riveting scenes where you're running from a monster. There is not a scene with any adult or monster in this game that feels bad or dumb. They're all great. every last one. Anyways, the story of this one is that Murno is noticing that this tower is corrupting the world, and so he begins to head towards it, with the help of Six, of course. Throughout the game, there are these various TVs, which is how the tower is corrupting the world, that give Murno these headaches, and the only way to stop them is to tune into the TV. If the player does this correctly, they're teleported into the TV, and in the TV is the hallway with the door from the beginning of the game. Each time you go into the hallway, you get a little bit closer to the door each time, and eventually you get this big reveal. The one who's been corrupting the world. It sounds scary, and your first time playing through this game, it is honestly one of the creepiest moments in the entire series. You slowly run up to this door, and you open it slowly. The camera keeps in the middle of the screen, building anticipation of what's behind the door, and eventually it's revealed. A tall, thin man wearing only a hat. And yeah, he looks awesome. He's probably my favorite Little Nightmares monster. And he looks quite scary, doesn't he? Especially with how he menacingly looms over you. And especially when he does this crap that's straight from The Ring. However, once you learn the truth of the Thin Man, he stops being scary and more kind of sad, really. Okay, well, maybe he's still a little scary, but you sympathize with him more. Towards the end of the game, Murno takes off the plastic bag over his head and unleashes this power which brutalizes the Thin Man. It's a satisfying moment. This guy has been following you around for like the majority of the second half of the game in a very different way from the others. The other creatures in this game chase you in a very brutal, very monstrous way. The Thin Man chases you at his own pace. It's almost like he's thinking, scheming, and he's been more menacing than the others in that regard, and you finally took him down. However, the moment is poisoned very quickly. You go to rescue Six, whom the Thin Man has turned into this weird monster, and after you free her and turn her back into a human, the two of you escape together. You're about to fall, but Six catches you, and then it happens. She gives you a good, long look, and after seeing something about your face, she drops you and escapes by herself, still selfish and self-centered. Murner survives the fall, and he sits in a chair as there's nothing else he can do. Then we have this time lapse, and honestly, it's one of Little Nightmares' most chilling moments. Murno ages with time. sitting on the chair, his mind slowly going, and eventually his arms, his legs, even his entire body get longer and longer. The building around him slowly gets repaired and less destroyed. Maybe Murno's fixing it? Murno progressively gets longer and longer, and yep, I'm just gonna say it. Murno is the Thin Man. And honestly, this is why the Thin Man is such a tragic villain to me. Because because he was forced to sit in a room, his mind slowly going, betrayed by his only friend. And honestly, it makes him way more understandable than other Little Nightmares monsters. While they're monstrous and uncaring, the Thin Man, he feels betrayed and hurt, and so it makes his actions way more justifiable. And the fact that you were him all along, it hurts even more. This ending is incredible, and it solidifies the Thin Man as my favorite Little Nightmares antagonist. The camera slowly pans out of the room as we get our last look at us, and then the door closes. The door from the beginning of the game, the door you've wanted to know what's behind it the entire game, and now you know, and you sort of wish that you didn't. It's a chilling little detail that the purple light that you see when you first encounter the Thin Man fills the room as the door slowly closes. And that's Little Nightmares too. The Little Nightmares games will always be more than just scary games to me. They tell beautiful, tragic tales that honestly, this video can't do justice. You just have to play them yourself. That beautiful, horrifying, engaging, tense, beautiful adventures in some of the greatest horror games ever made. And that's a wrap for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I know we got into some pretty heavy things here, but hey, games are still enjoyable despite all that because of all the tense moments. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. That would be fantastic. Your support is appreciated. And if you want, leave a comment letting me know what you thought of the video. I've been Jacob Green, and thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.